The year overlooked, 1989. All things obscure, underrated, and overlooked. 1989. What a year to close out the 80s. Obscurity aplenty. Now, not everything I'm going to talk about is virtually unknown to most people, or so I would assume. Just like I would assume that most people know about the live action Super Mario Bros. Show.
Hey, paisanos!
Older Mario commercials depicted a live action interpretation of the Brooklyn plumber, but the Super Mario Bros. Super Show took the idea and ran wild with it. Deep in the heart of Brooklyn, two Italian middle aged plumbers get into shenanigans with wacky guests like Cyndi Lauper and the fake Crocodile Dundee. Mario is played by WWF wrestler Captain Lou Albano, and Luigi played by some Italian guy from Brooklyn, I guess. There's a laugh track, of course, even when things aren't even slightly funny.
Genius!
The opening theme is great, and the ending is a classic. The reality, though, is that these segments played a smaller role to the bigger picture here, a children's Saturday morning cartoon based on Super Mario Bros. 2. It has music from the game, Toad as a character, it has Bowser, or King Koopa, as he's known in the cartoon, instead of wards, though it looks like a hybrid of the two characters. The writing is ridiculous, of course, and the accents, gotta love them. About a quarter of the episode is dedicated to the much more interesting live action segments, whereas you'll be spending the majority of the time watching these cartoons with, not so great animation and weak plot points.
Mario Brothers Plumbing. Yeah, you clog him, we clear him.
The Super Mario Bros. Super Show wasn't even the weirdest live action show based on the Nintendo franchise in 1989. In Southern California, they were airing the King Koopa's Kool cartoon show. Yeah, produced by Deke Entertainment, remember them? The costume is hideous, but the kids in the audience seem to enjoy it. It was basically the equivalent to a public access show. Kind of reminds me of the movie UHF. King Koopa interacts with the audience in between public domain cartoons. So this actor was a bit of an issue behind the scenes. So let's get this straight. You get someone that acts like Bowser, and that's an issue? No, apparently he was an issue.
You won't do that. You're too cool, huh, Carlos?
How cool would it be to have any of these props? I wonder how often these types of sets were just torn down or even set on fire. Like, does the actual King Koopa costume still exist in some Hollywood storage unit today? Obscure media like this only exists today thanks to the very few people who took the time to not only record these on VHS tapes back then, but also getting them online. There might be tapes out there sitting in grandma's attic that exist, and hopefully they all be uploaded one day. Let's stick with cartoons based on an established property. This time, let's take a look at that Beetlejuice cartoon from 1989. Produced by Nelvana Limited, first Deke and now Nelvana, seeing these really bring back memories, huh? Tim Burton's hit movie from 1988, which, yeah, sure, it was 80s kid appropriate, but yeah, it spawned a cartoon. And why not? They even gave Toxic Avenger a cartoon. It ran for 4 seasons, and most episodes were parodies of something popular at the time. But of course, there's lots of ghoulish fun as you would expect. This cartoon takes the well-established movie and really expands on it. All the additional characters work. It's a Halloween movie, Beetlejuice, so there's a lot of fun things you can do in cartoon form. The voice acting is appropriate. This is how you make a cartoon based on a movie. Have you ever watched the Dumb and Dumber cartoon? Well, we'll get to that one day. But yeah, the Beetlejuice character in this cartoon sure is a lot friendlier than he was in the movie. There was a great, addictive DOS game released in 1990 based on this cartoon. We have all these studios nowadays remaking all these obscure old games. So why doesn't someone remaster this one? 89 was the year for movie sequels, and a lot of great ones came out the year. Lethal Weapon 2, Back to the Future 2, Ghostbusters 2. Alright, not a lot of people like that one, but I did. But what about some lesser talked about sequels? The Fly 2. Cronenberg's disgusting body horror remake, The Fly, was a big hit a few years before this. Now, the sequel, not so much. I mean, it did decently in the theaters, but critics hated it, and horror fans, they don't really like it either. Director Chris Wallace was an established makeup and special effects artist. He even worked on the first Fly movie. But this was around the time when makeup artists attempted to direct movies. You had Tom Savini with Night of the Living Dead, Stan Winston with Pumpkinhead, and Chris Wallace here with Fly 2. He didn't capture the absurd, horrifying feeling of the first one. It's probably because there's a lack of that Cronenberg direction and, of course, Jeff Goldblum's acting. But yeah, when a movie has shifts in directors and writers shortly before shooting starts, that's usually not a good sign. It has disgusting moments that are cool, but the set pieces and the special effects are all lacking. Toxic Avenger 2. Speaking of disgusting, Toxic Avenger had a sequel in 89. And actually, there was a third one also released in 89. Kind of a weird way to do it, but it's Lloyd Kaufman and Trauma, and, they're everything but normal. And with the sequel to a movie like The Toxic Avenger, you expect even more over the top, grotesque violence. But these two Toxic Avengers gave us less for some reason. So it's New Jersey's only superhero. He goes to Japan in part 2, kills some bad guys with starfish, and it is absolutely hilarious at times. Legendary manga artist Go Nagai has a cameo, and that's cool. And then part 3 is a direct sequel to that one, but this time he's back in beautiful New Jersey, selling his soul to the devil to make ends meet. The video store scene is really the only highlight with this one.
Dude, you don't have much intestinal fortitude.
Taboo, a party game released by Milton Bradley. Check out these colors, very 80s. The original version came with this buzzer and an hourglass, which is missing. But yeah, it's a simple game. You need at least 4 players, though. You have to have someone guess the word on your randomly selected card, but you can't use any of the forbidden or taboo words. You can't make gestures or draw either. You must communicate verbally only. It can make for a difficult round depending on the word you were given. Okay, here's my word and the taboo words. This is gonna be pretty hard. So it's like a therapy kind of. It originated in Asia, and you have no idea, do you? So yeah, it's supposed to come with an hourglass to time each round, and the buzzer is used by other players in case a taboo word is used or just to keep the player in check. There's been many versions of the game over the years. There's even an uncensored one that released during the time of all these type of games trying to jump on that Cards Against Humanity craze. There's a game show made in the early 2000s. Didn't last very long.
You're back, your muscle.
Alright, get your 3D glasses ready for this next one. During the halftime for the Super Bowl in 89, there was a special 3D commercial, the first of its kind. Actually, these type of 3D glasses didn't really work with this commercial. You needed a special pair of New Optics 3D glasses, which you can actually find relatively cheap on eBay. It's even the Coca-Cola kind, which is what the commercial promoted. The whole presentation is interesting and trippy, the kind of stuff you would like to see in 3D. But you also need to make sure your TV's color settings were to a specific setting. So yeah, none of this is working. But you gotta love the creative concept, of course. PSAs, public service announcements, are pretty wild. These days, they're relatively tame compared to some of these older ones.
Remember, don't be afraid to turn to your priest, your rabbi, your minister, your moms, your dads, your teachers, because drugs can kill. And if you do drugs, you go to hell before you die.
Damn, Mario was the last person I expected to tell someone they'll burn in hell. They all seem to have been targeting kids with the goal of scaring them into not doing what they are announcing. Makes sense, but how effective was any of this? You even had special episodes in sitcoms that were basically PSAs. Saved by the Bell did this quite a few times. The dangers of being addicted to caffeine pills. Or the No Hope for Dope episode, anti-weed propaganda.
Dangerous.
Stinks. In one word, would I use dope? Nope.
PCs were rapidly advancing in '89. You got Sound Blaster cards being introduced. Apple released their first portable PC. Intel releasing all sorts of new microprocessors. There were lots of PC options to choose from, all of them slightly different from one another, but it's the gaming capabilities that made one stand out from the other, in my opinion. Older PCs like Commodore 64 were still hanging in there in '89. A game like Stunt Car Racer was a mild success. The MSX2, the scrolling shoot 'em up LS2, was popular in Japan, and that has never been ported to any other system. But when it came to gaming on PCs, none were more beloved than the ones you could find on MS-DOS. And you know what's ridiculous? PC prices. These archaic machines and monitors that really only serve a single purpose now are so expensive. So if you had an IBM computer, you likely had access to some great games of the 80s in the form of floppy disks. Now, back then, it's just like today. Not every game was great. It's like the eShop or, the Steam store. You got some big hits, some hidden gems, but a mountain of trash. Luckily, DOSBox is super easy to use on modern computers. One game in particular from '89 to check out is Mech Warrior. Mech Warrior was the catalyst for cockpit-based mech battling games. Objective is easy. Kill the enemy before they kill you. It was innovative for its time, paving the way for likes of Steel Battalion and the Gundam side story games. It's fun to check out. Takeshi Kitano, better known as Beat Takeshi, he's a Japanese national treasure. He started in smaller comedic roles, but grew in popularity and overseas when he started directing in '89, starting with Violent Cop. Not only did he direct it, he co-wrote it, and he's the main star. The movie is exactly as it sounds. An aloof yet brutal cop doesn't take any crap, not even from teenagers. When the Yakuza get mixed up with the corrupt cops and his own sister, Takeshi, as Azuma, goes on a tear. Yeah, spoiler, there's no happy ending here. For a first-time director, he has some great-looking shots, especially the whole ending sequence with the shadows. It's all a great ode to noir crime movies of the past. And due to his background in comedy, there are some genuinely funny scenes, specifically between Azuma and his rookie partner, Kikuchi. Though, yeah, disturbing turns quickly snuff out any lasting comedic moments. But it's just a fantastic movie, and one I can't recommend enough if you're into these types of Yakuza films. Alright, let's talk about music for a bit. Music lovers know the big music videos of the year. Madonna's overly dramatic Like a Prayer, The Cure's brooding Lullaby. But here are some interesting, lesser known videos from '89. Back to the Future and Friday the 13th 4 actor Crispin Glover released a unique avant-garde album that year. He is interesting. I enjoy him. But check out his video for Clowny Clown Clown. It's like something out of a David Lynch movie.
Clown, I get teary-eyed and really snide.
Synth pop band Severed Heads released a music video for All Saints Day. An early look at cutting-edge computer graphics. experimental remixer Holger Hiller put out this video for Ohio Bang Bang. When it came to music itself from '89, check out these rock bands. Appetite for Adrenochrome is the debut album from horror punk band Groovy Ghoulies, an often overlooked band in general. And how about the Gories House Rockin'? It's Detroit garage punk, raw DIY stuff that went on to be a huge influence on the likes of Jack White. Check them out. Original video animation, more commonly known as OVAs, are a Japanese animation direct-to-video release that were oftentimes more experimental than broadcasted anime. And, they were shorter, usually only a handful of episodes, and oftentimes way trashier. Up the gore, nudity, and problematic themes. And, well, something like Angel Cop certainly fits all of that. Cyberpunk anime at the time were all taking bits from the likes of Blade Runner and Terminator, often focusing on some sort of task force or vigilante with special suits and stylized weapons. Angel Cop tells the tale of Angel, a badass, foul-mouthed sharpshooter, and Raiden, a special agent injured early on in the show and turns into RoboCop. Throw in some radical terrorists and psychic humans, and you get a violent battle to determine the fate of Mega Power Japan. Awesome ending theme aside, you won't get much value from the subbed version of Angel Cop. That's why you gotta watch this one dubbed.
If this is justice, then I'm a banana.
Manga Entertainment didn't miss when it came to some bizarrely bad dubbing. Like it's so bad it's good.
Thank you for saving my ass just now, but what'd you think you're doing, blowing her head off? We could have questioned her.
Calm down, for Christ's sake. She wasn't important. And anyway, you've still got those other jokers you can question.
Those late 80s, early 90s dubs sure loved their city accents. Even the 1989 dub of Akira had some thick New York accents. I have no idea why.
Now you're king of the mountain, aren't you? But it's all garbage!
If you own a computer, here's how to get the most out of it without buying lots of expensive software.
The internet, as we know it, took shape throughout the 80s from very primitive states used mainly by businesses, though it was in '89 that it really started to catch on and become something bigger, reaching out to different countries, and the world's first internet advertisement was released, CompuServe, one of the first internet providers.
In the electronic mall, it connects you with other computer owners and offers games.
Brilliant minds were working on ways to connect users. Not everyone had the same hardware, but everyone could connect by using one common system, the World Wide Web. To think people originally created the internet for the purpose of sharing and enjoying information. I just used the World Wide Web to buy one of my favorite movies from 1989, Kickboxer, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. It follows almost the same formula as Bloodsport, released not too long before this. There's a martial artist that takes part of a fighting tournament, but instead of Kowloon, he's in Bangkok. Even if you aren't a fan of this type of movie, you have to love the drunken dance scene. It was originally going to star Chuck Norris, but Van Damme was the much better choice, in my opinion. Fantastic soundtrack, as always, by Paul Herzog. Oh, and that wasn't all in '89 for Mr. Van Damme. Albert Pune's Cyborg also came out. Don't you love how the future in the '80s movies were always just the '80s? All these dystopian movies try to do their own spin on Mad Max. Yeah, and most of them failed. But don't worry, you can get your over-the-top kicks in this one too. Canon Films is notorious these days. If a movie has that Canon Films seal, you're in for a time. Not necessarily a good time, but a time. This was the last theatrical release for them, and it originally had an X rating due to the extreme violence. So yeah, I don't know, where's all the petition for the Pune cut? Yeah, I guess there's a bit of a theme I gravitated to in hindsight with 89, and that's cyberpunk. But in reality, it was everywhere. The rise in technology, specifically computer technology, paved the way for creative minds to take a look at ways in how, yes, technology can help us, but it can also doom us. One of the best examples of early cyberpunk has to be the Shadowrun franchise. Originally a pen and paper game, it spawned tons of books and games. It seemed like the perfect recipe for a movie or something, and that never happened. But it all started with this fantasy, sci fi, Dungeons and Dragons like game. It had all the makings of a good cyberpunk world, the Japanese influence, dystopian, grungy world, William Gibson esque vocabulary, and sweet looking characters. Basically, think Dungeons and Dragons meets Blade Runner. It has tons of fantastical elements like magic and dragons, but of course, all the sci fi too. Pick your character, your dwarf, orc, troll, elf, human, and archetype. Mages have good spells, but lack the cyberware for hacking into the Matrix. That's where something like a Decker comes in handy. Or there's detectives with high attributes like intelligence and firearm skills. You got your rocker instead of the classic bards, street mages, street samurai, tribesmen. The Shadowrun book has all the information you need in terms of skills, character development, combat, which relies on six sided die. There are all sorts of great drawings in here. You can even develop your own character in the back, fill out the attributes, and even draw it. It's D&D. You have the dungeon master and a shadow running crew to run a job. Match the die roll to the number next to the attribute, attack based on skills and weapons assigned to your character, and hack into the matrix. Creating a character and choosing attributes is easy enough, but this system gets complicated the deeper you fine tune the experience. But you can just keep it simple. Roll some die and see if your action lands or not. Let's stick with that cyberpunk theme. One of the most influential cyberpunk stories, Ghost in the Shell. Now, people are familiar with the 1995 anime movie, but yeah, Masamune Shiro released a manga for it first. It's the usual themes of technological danger, man's reliance on machine, and a special task force. This one being led by Major Kusanagi and lead investigator Bato, as they attempt to take down the mysterious puppet master, someone strong enough to hack brains using AI ghosts. The animation in the manga is great, weird at times. You get a lot of silly, exaggerated faces here and there. It's a lot more comedic than the future anime adaptations. You have your cool mecha like machines, this time the form of like a spider, a drug fueled orgy, sci fi action, everything an 89 cyberpunk fan can ask for. And Shiro is no stranger to cyberpunk. Before Ghost in the Shell, he also released Appleseed and Black Magic, both great cyberpunk stories.
Get out of the way, bad dudes! It's the Turtles Party Wagon. The wacky
Good
attack
video
band
games
means
and
good
cool
times for the
toys,
green
80s
guys
kids
and
had it
hard
all.
knocks for the
Ninja
blue.
Turtles continued its
Especially
line of
those
toys with the release of Casey Jones and Usagi Yojimbo. You had a new line of Batman toys to promote Tim Burton's movie release, and you also had Computer Warriors.
Soccer trophy changes into an evil techno tank, forcing the computer warriors down. Hiding in a Pepsi can, the computer warriors fight back and deliver a...
Mattel put out an original line of toys, not based on an existing IP, something original. No wonder it flopped. But it was basically just G.I. Joe meets Transformers. An action figure came packaged with some sort of vehicle that can transform into a household item like a computer or Pepsi can. Some of them were functional though, like this calculator or this pencil sharpener. There were only a dozen or so figures created, so collectors shouldn't have too hard of a time getting them all, especially since they are pretty cheap, loose at least. One of the neat things about going back and researching a year that I don't remember at all is finding something and going, oh yeah, I remember that when I was a kid. Mall Madness is one such thing. It came out in 89 but grew in popularity throughout the 90s. And can you think of anything more late 80s, early 90s than a board game based on a shopping mall? Okay, yeah, malls aren't so lively and poppy today, but back then they were hip for sure. And Mall Madness is all about spending money and buying trendy items like sunglasses from Made in the Shade or a camera from Hocus Focus Cameras. The goal is to buy 6 items from different shops, only moving when the creepy robotic voice tells you to.
Attention mall shoppers, there is a clearance at the jewelry store.
Milton Bradley was doing a lot of robotic voices for the games during '89. Technically, Mall Madness released a year prior, but was quickly updated for an '89 re release. Nowadays, you have all sorts of creeps on YouTube teaching guys how to get the girls. Well, back in the '80s, desperate men had to rely on VHS tapes to do so. One such odd release was Video Girlfriend, a cheesy end cap to the '80s, really. Some basic tips and saxophone music. I don't know. It reminds me of like a Sega CD game or something. How it's all done through a POV shot, and the POV character sounds like Goofy.
No, no, I'm talking to my girlfriend.
So that was just scratching the surface of the obscurity found in 1989. Stay tuned. Next month I have part 2 coming out. Plenty of more underrated and weird things to talk about. So yeah, everyone, thanks for watching.